Okay, class. So if you walk into a bank and you open a savings account, you will earn interest on the money that you deposit in the bank. Okay. If interest is calculated once, only once, then the interest is called simple interest. Okay. If the interest is calculated more than once a year, then it is called compound interest. Okay, everyone? Okay, can you see my screen and can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
madam.
Okay, so can you tell me what is the formula for compound interest? All this while you've been using what formula last week for compound interest?
S minus T.
S
Oh,
is
oh,
equals
S.
to, is it
T
P?
in bracket 1 plus I
1 plus I.
power of N.
Okay, what is I here? What does I represent? Okay, we know that the I here is the interest for each period. Okay, this is periodic interest, interest for each period. Okay, but sometimes we can also write the formula as, if we don't know the I, okay, say we don't know the I, or maybe we only know what is the frequency, so we can also write this formula as K per M. Correct? Is this two the same?
Yes.
Yes, because we know that I is K over M. So what is K?
Nominal rate.
Nominal rate.
Yes, K is the annual nominal rate. Okay, and what is M?
Frequency conversion.
Yes, frequency of interest calculation. How many times you calculate in a year? Okay, frequency of interest calculation in a year. Okay, or we can also write this like this: 1 plus K over M. What is our N here, by the way? N is total number of interest periods. N is the total number of interest period. That means in 1 year, how many interest periods, and your whole investment period is how many years. You times that, you get N. So N is also equals to MT. M is the frequency and T is the investment period. Okay. So we can also write this like this, right? So which formula you use, it depends on what you know, what is given in the question. This S here is known as the sum total, or it is also known as the future value. Okay, or it is also known as the accumulated total or accumulated sum, accumulated value. Okay, accumulated means what you collect over the number period. Okay, over a period, this accumulated value. So this that is what it represents. The P here represents the principal. Okay, or we can also call it present value. Okay, PV. So sometimes you see the formulas written like this: FV is equals to PV into 1 plus IN. It is the same formula. These two is the same. Okay, these two formulas are the same. Future value is the sum that you are going to get after a few years. Okay, after the investment period, which is also known as the accumulated value, how much you collect at the end of the investment period. Present value is how much is it worth now, today. Okay, or it is also known as the principal. So which all these four things here that you see here, they are all the same. It is just maybe sometimes you are not given the interest for each period. Maybe you're only given the frequency. Okay, so you need to find maybe the annual nominal rate. So you want to use equation number 2. Okay, So which equation you use depends on what information is given in the question. Okay, so far okay, everybody clear?
Yes.
Okay, so before I go on to compound this guy, I just want to do this one question first. Okay, so if you deposit RM 6,000 ringgit into an account paying 8% annual interest, okay, compounded monthly, okay, and how much will you make after 7 years? Okay, so if you deposit RM 6,000 ringgit into an account that pays 8% annual interest compounded monthly, how much will you make after 7 years? This 7 years is the time, the investment period, okay? This is actually your K, 8%, okay? Compounded monthly. Monthly means M is equals to 12. Okay, so you know K, you know M, so you know that I is equals to K over M. So that means your I is actually 8%, which is 0.08 over 12. Okay, and this is your principal P. Okay, so substituting into your formula. So you want to find after 7 years, that means you want to find either the future value or the accumulated value, which is represented by S, okay, or you even can write FV. So this is equals to your principal is 6,000, 1 plus 0.08 over 12, and your N now is, N is the number of frequencies per year, which is 12, times the number of years is 7. 12 times 7 is 84. So using your calculators, after this step is all using calculator only, okay? So it's 11,358 ringgit and 24 cents, okay? This is how we calculate compound interest, okay? This is what we studied last week, So I hope everyone can do this, yes?
84 is month, right, madam?
Pardon?
84 is month, right?
84 is months, yes.
Okay, understand.
Okay, just remember the N is always MT, which is M is the frequency per year times the number of years. T is always in years. Okay, T is always in years. Okay, so now we're going on to equivalent rates. We already know how to calculate compound interest. Now we want to look at the rates. Okay, when we say rates, we're looking at the nominal interest rate. Okay, two rates are equivalent. Okay, two rates are equivalent if they yield the same future value. Okay, so if at the end of the investment period you get the same amount, that means the two rates used are the same. Okay, they are called equivalent. Okay, and interest rate compounded more than once a year is called a nominal interest rate. This is just for you to refresh. And this is the other thing that you must know. The effective annual interest rate, also known as the effective rate. Okay, either you say in full effective annual interest rate or effective rate. It is the real return on a savings account or any interest paying investment when the effects of compounding over time are taken into account. Okay, what we mean by that we will see in a moment. Okay, supposing you had 1,000 ringgit and you invest it for 1 year. Okay, you have 1,000 ringgit and you invest it for 1 year. Okay, you can either invest it for 8% interest rate compounded annually, or you can invest it at 7.77% interest rate compounded quarterly. So now you want to know whether these two rates, will they yield the same future value, the same accumulated value at the end. Okay, so you want to know that are both these interest rate equivalent or not. Okay, so let's try to calculate and see if both these rates are equivalent. Okay, so for A, we know that we're going to use this formula. Okay, so we are going to calculate as the future value or the accumulated value. Okay, so this is equal to our principal is 1000. 1 plus our I is 8% interest rate compounded annually. That means it's 0.08 over 1. And annually, so our N is 1. So how much do we get here? We get 1080. For B, we're doing the same calculation, okay? We get principal is 1000 plus our I is 7. So I is 0.777, correct?
Yes.
0.0777 divided by quarterly, compounded quarterly, so over 4. And to the power of
4.
4, yes, 4, okay? So what do we get here? We get 1080 also, okay? So we can see here that both the yields, both of them, both the interest yield the same accumulated value, okay? Because they yield the same accumulated value, therefore 8% interest compounded, compounded annually is equivalent to 7.77% interest compounded quarterly. Okay, so that is what we mean by equivalent rates. Do you understand that?
Means we need to compare two rates.
Yeah, because sometimes when you go to one bank, they give you the first rate. They say, okay, you can invest, but this is our interest, 8% interest rate compounded annually. And then you see that the next bank gives you the second interest. They give you 7.77. If you look at the interest alone, you think that you are getting less because it is 7.77. But if you look at how many times they calculate, second one is calculating 4 times a year. The first one, they only calculate once. So now you want to know which is more, which will give you more. Okay, so but when you calculate the accumulated value, you find both of them are exactly the same. So now you can choose. So now you know that this interest rate is the same as this interest rate. You understand?
Okay, I understand.
Okay. Okay. Supposing you have a sum, this is your principal, RMP. RMP, this is your principal amount. If you invest it for 1 year, okay, at R% effective rate, okay, R% effective rate, then the future value after 1 year, okay, then the future value after 1 year at R% effective rate is P into 1 plus R. Okay. Okay. And if you invest the same amount, okay, if you invest the same amount for 1 year at K% compounded M times a year. Okay, then you get this is P into 1 plus K over M times MT. But because your T is 1 year, so T is 1, lah. So this is to the power of M, correct? Okay, so because effective rate is actually the equivalent of the nominal rate for that 1 year, therefore we can say that P 1 plus R is equals to P into 1 plus K over M times M. Okay, from here we know that 1 plus R is 1 plus K over M to the power of M. So R is equals to 1 plus K over M to the power of M minus 1. Okay, and R here is the effective interest rate. Okay, so therefore effective interest rate R is equals to 1 plus K over M. Okay, this is the formula for effective interest rate. Okay, effective interest rate is the interest rate for that year, taking into consideration all the compounding. Okay, nominal rate is already given to you. Nominal rate is the interest rate for that compounding period. Okay, but effective interest rate is one, they give you one generally. Okay, they just calculate for the year generally. That is effective interest rate. Okay, so if you want to change the nominal interest rate into a effective interest rate, then this is the formula that you want to use. Okay, because sometimes you have nominal interest rate compounded, they give you many different kinds of rates and they ask you to compare which is the best. So when you want to compare, you must change it all into effective interest rate for you to compare and tell which is the best interest rate. Okay. Okay, so far?
Okay.
Okay, we'll do some examples first, and then later we'll come back to this. Okay, example, interest on a credit card is quoted as 23% per annum, okay, so yearly, compounded monthly. What is the effective annual interest rate, also known as the effective rate? Okay, give your answer correct to 2 decimal places. So from here, let's pick out the information that we know. Okay, what is this? What do we know from here? Do we know what is M? M is 12. Do we know what's I? I is 0.23 over
4. Over
compounded
12.
monthly.
12.
So over 12. Okay. So we use the formula that we did used earlier. The formula was R is equals to 1 plus K over M in times M minus 1. This is M or MT. Just now we were using 1 year, so it's M, or you can put MT here. Okay. So this is, so now we want to change this into our effective interest rate. So this is 1 plus, this is 0.23 over 12. This is 12 minus 1. So if we calculate this, we will get 25.59%. Okay, so the effective interest rate per annum is, okay, so effective interest rate per annum or effective rate is 25.59% per annum. Okay, so this is just like your earlier calculations, just that now they're asking you what is the effective rate. Okay, they're not asking you for the nominal rate. Nominal rate means it always comes together with compounded monthly. You must know how frequently it is compounded. But if you want just one general rate, taking into consideration all the how many times is compounded, then you calculate effective rate. It's just like changing it all into one standard rate. Okay, this the effective rate is like the standard rate for the year. Okay.